So you want your track sounding like your favourite artists. You want to be able to play it in your DJ sets alongside all these other professional tunes, but it doesn't quite sound right. It could be because you're mastering, either you're not doing it or you haven't done it correctly. In this video, I'm going to show you how to master, but in the most basic way. We're going to be using stock plugins only. What I mean by stock plugins is we're only going to be using stuff that is native to Ableton. Now, even if you don't have Ableton, you should be able to follow along because your DAW will also have its stock plugins that are sort of the equivalents. So like limiters and EQs and things, they'll be in all the DAWs. They just might be called something different. Because this is a stock plugin tutorial, we're not going to have the total control that we might normally have, but we are saving a lot of money, and this is a way that you can get into mastering if you've not mastered tracks before, and a quick way to get your track sounding loud to test in sets. Now, if you want a higher end master and you're looking to get your tracks mastered, or you don't want to do it yourself, feel free to check out my Patreon in the description. I am offering mastering service for a one-time fee. You don't have to be a member. You can just pay for it. It's £8, by the way. And if you use the code DHMaster, you get £3 off for the next week because I've just started doing it now. And yeah, feel free to go over and check that out if you want some mastering done by me personally. Even if you don't want mastering, go and check out the Patreon anyway because we've got a great system set up over there. It's finally active. It's only £6 a month and you get a lot of benefits. You get access to some of my presets, including basses and serums and lasers and all sorts. I've given away some of these mastering chains, like the ones we're going to use in this video. I'm going to set it up as a chain, save it, and I'm going to put it on a Patreon so you can just download that and drop it straight on your mastering track. You haven't even got to do anything else. So that's going to be on there. Loads of other like presets as well and preset vocal packs and stuff like that. Lots of live streams on there. We're talking in-depth production. That's where we're most active. So if you're looking to join, go over, have a look at it, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in there. But anyway, let's get on with this video. The project, and what I've done for this one is I've taken a song of mine called Fingertips, and I've removed the mastering that I've done, dropped it in, one file rendered so we can master it together from scratch. This is what it sounds like at the moment. Hey, hey, hey. It's actually a really good song. I'm really happy with it. It's yet to be signed. Which label should I send it to? Just saying, give me some suggestions in the comments. But anyway, it's unmastered. The mix sounds good. We just need to bump it up, make it sound loud, professional, sound like it's a real song. That's one thing to note straight away, the mix. The mix on this is already correct. Mastering is not mixing. They aren't the same thing. Mastering is making it loud, making it sound real, like it's in a room. Mixing is making all the levels and sounds of all the different instruments you're playing sound correct. The mix should be correct at any loudness of track. Even if it's really quiet, the mix should still sound good. Make sure there's headroom at the top of the track so we aren't clipping before the master, because we need to be able to crank it up. If it's already clipping and we're already hitting near zero, we can't crank it up because that's how sound works. If there's no headroom, there's nowhere to go with it. You can't create headroom. So make sure the mix is correct if you're sending your stuff to get mastered. I did mention that in my PDF about my mastering service. Not to worry here really, just something good to know. And below we have the reference, which is my fully mastered version of the track. We'll listen to that at the end and see how close we can get to this. So straight away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump onto the mastering chain. I'm going to loop 8 bars of the drop because you want to loop at the loudest part of your track to make sure you're mastering against where it's going to be loudest. And we're going to start. So what I always like to start with is I start with a reverb because reverb is king. It makes it sound real, makes it sound like it's in a room. Straight away, I'm going to hit this with a small haul on an audio effect rack. The reason I use an audio effect rack is so that I can control each individual effect on the mastering and how much it's hitting it. You can do this with sends and returns. I like to use effect racks personally because I find it easier to control than sends, but that will work just as well. It's the same idea. So we're hitting it with a haul and it sounds like this straight away. Obviously, that's way too much reverb, way too much haul. Let's solo the reverb so we can hear exactly what the reverb is doing. And let's drop that down. And then bring in the full song again. So I'm going to say about there. And like straight away I've got the mix on 100% because then I can affect it via the channel. And one other thing to note as well, if you're listening to this on AirPods or crappy kitchen speakers, you're probably not even going to notice the difference. Please use some good headphones or speakers when you're mastering, unless you're really good at it, but in which case you're probably not watching this video anyway. You get the point. So we've got a short reverb on it, and it's short because it's not got a very big decay time. I'm actually going to drop the decay time now, even talking about that, to about 0.8, and we're going to give it another listen. Love it. I'm going to cut all reverb going into the channel below 140 because we do not want sub and bass hitting the reverb unit. It just muddies it up unnecessarily. Next thing we're going to do is I like to always drop another reverb on. Most tracks benefit from a really big reverb as well as a short reverb. And I'm just going to grab the full reverb unit from Ableton, drop that in here, whack the dry and wet onto 100%. I'm going to solo it and sort of come up with the sound I want. Some spin. Gonna raise the high cut, and decay I'm gonna bump up too much. Don't need diffuse like that. Chorus, bit down there. Okay, I'm happy with that sound, and again what we're gonna do this time, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna take the sound out completely, unsolo it so it's playing with everything else, and I'm going to bring this large reverb in until it sounds correct to my ear. So we're going to start bringing the sound up now. Way too much. There, I like it. I like it there. I'm going to grab that EQ and we're going to put it on this track as well, because another reverb, and we want to do the same thing. No sub in the reverb, and I'm going to name this first one small verb, and this one large verb, so we don't get confused. Now after reverb, I like to move away from this audio effect rack and drop some other effects after it. First one I'm going to hit is a multi-band saturation. Now multi-band saturation, Ableton doesn't actually have a plugin that does this directly, but it does have multi-band dynamics. A classic preset I like to use that's in Ableton under multi-band dynamics is multi-band compression. It's not quite the same as multi-band saturation, but unfortunately Ableton doesn't have one. That's one of those secret sauce plugins that you might want to invest in the future, but this is very close. So dropping this on, what it's doing is essentially compressing each band of frequencies differently. You can control each band separately, which gives it some really good control. Let's just hit play with it at 100% mix and you'll hear what it sounds like. Straight away, you can hear the compression. Obviously 100%, way too much, so I'm going to drop that to maybe 72%. And I'm also going to change the threshold of the mids because I want to give a bit more compression in the mids. Up the highs a little bit. So I want to give it a little bit on the highs. There you go, very simple. Again, we're just listening to make sure it sounds good. This is not the super technical tutorial on how to be a mixer mastering engineer, because this is just what we're doing. This is 2024, make your own music. If it sounds good to you and it sounds good against other reference tracks, you're probably on path. Yes, if we gave this to a mastering engineer, he'd probably bite my head off and say, what are you doing? Like the way I mix into my masters, but we're here to learn, and if it sounds good to you and it sounds good to the rest of the world, who cares, you know? And this will sound good. That's the key. We're not just making rubbish here. So we've got the multi-band compression on, that's all good. What we need to do next is I like to hit the track with some saturation. Saturation being some warmth, some tube warmth, you know. Normally in either the mids or the highs, or a little bit of both. In this case, I feel like it wants for a little bit of both in the mids and the highs. Not really the lows, because the low end is already grooving like a boom boom, but oh, it's grooving, man. So what we're going to do is jump into some drive and color, saturator here, and I love a bit warmer. Always a quick one to chuck on. I'm going to put this on before the multi-band compression as well, because that's the way the change sounds best. This is going to be way too much because it's up at 62% if I play it. Yeah, way too much. I'm going to turn that off and mix it in slowly. See, I'm saying about there, about 13.5%. And one great thing to do is to turn stuff on and off that you're adding, and make sure that when it's on, it's adding the thing that you're trying to get it to add. Don't just randomly throw crap at it, because that's not the way to do it. Turn both off together. See, I'm hearing the difference there, and it's adding what I wanted to add. Therefore, I know it's at about the right amount. Now, the last thing that I like to add for sound, for effect, is something called shine. Fresh air, a lot of people call it, or air on some plugins as it's called. It's essentially like freshness in the very high frequencies, a bit of shine. Now a plugin you can use for this that is free is called Fresh Air. I'll leave a link to it in the description of the video if you want to go and download that. It is entirely free and it's really good. I used it for a long time, but because this is an Ableton stock plugins only, I'm going to show you one in Ableton that can also do it. It's called Enhance. It's really good. I use it quite a lot on sounds as well during the making a song process. I use it on hi-hats quite a lot. It's great for that sort of stuff. And let's play with a bit of shine and you'll hear the difference. Notice that? Right on the top end, it's adding a bit of shine. Now I'm going to drop this down from 20,000 kilohertz because that's a bit too high, to maybe shine everything about 13.8 and above, with a bit more on the dry and wet, maybe 14-15%. That's too much. Still too much. Like 9%. And you can hear that shine, especially on the hi-hats if you listen to them. Then what I like to do is I like to come back to the audio effect rack and add a few more things that are going to make this track feel real. Now, a good one is like a dirt / grit / distortion of some sort to make it feel real. Kind of like you've turned up the speakers too loud and it's coming through the speakers too loud, distorted. Obviously, people go, you don't want that sort of sound, but in the mix, subtly in the background, it can add a lot of character to a track. And in this track, we're going to use mids distort. As you can see, it's on here, 100%. Give it a quick play. It sounds like we're playing it through an old telly too loud. And in the context of the mix, if we drop this right down, it's going to sound nice. Too much at the moment. It'll be about there. And one thing we're going to do is we're going to hit it with an EQ afterwards, because we do not want any sub bass coming out with grit on it. We're going to cut it high. So it sounds like that now. That's just what we're hearing from the grit. Now, one last thing to add would be something called a distressor, or if it's something that pumps the track, gives the highs and the lows compression and makes it all sit nicely together. In this case, we're just going to use Ableton Compressor. Now, this is actually what I still use for my distressors. I haven't found a good plugin for it yet. So, I still use this, therefore I can definitely vouch for how useful it is as what we're trying to do with it. So let's solo it up. And straight away, we're going to drop the threshold right down because we want the sound to feel like it's pumping. So that's too much pump, way too much pump. So let's get that threshold up a little bit. I think about there. You notice how it feels like it's pumping every hit of the bass, or the sound is just pumping constantly. We're going to drop the release right down to 0.1 of a millisecond, and the attack, and then we're going to drop the release to about 12 milliseconds. That means it's hitting, when it hits the threshold, the compression is acting really quickly, but as soon as it goes above the threshold, it's releasing really quickly. So we get a real pumping feel. I still think that's pumping a bit hard. Let me, there we go. And we're going to take the sound out and mix it in slowly. Too much. Like a -15. That's good. So now we're distressing the track. We're compressing it heavily with a good bounce. Now, one last thing you can add right at the front before the effect rack is an EQ for a bit of mid-side. Now, this is one of those fancy-pantsy things that you do mainly to clean up a track perfectly. Do I think it's necessary in most tracks that you're testing? No, because it's really just to clean up that mix and make it sound lovely and crisp. You won't even know. If we do this correctly, you won't even notice the difference, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the mid side, and on the mids, we're going to cut with I think that's about 12 hertz slope on it at 25 hertz. We're going to cut everything below 25 hertz because you can't even hear it. And in the side, we're going to toggle to side. We're going to grab the same curve, but at about 140 hertz. The idea being that in the side frequencies, you don't want any bass, because bass is mono anyway, so putting it in the sides makes no sense. It's just going to muddy up the entire mix and make it sound less clean, especially on big systems. Again, if you're playing this in your local pub or in your bedroom, unless you're in some sort of treated studio, which again, why are you watching this video? This isn't going to do a lot. But if you want to do it and, understand why you're doing it, it's a good thing to add. If we play it and I turn it on and off, we won't even hear the difference, in our ears. Nothing. But it's there, we're using it, and we know why we're using it. There is a purpose to it. So, why not? Now the last thing you need to do is add a limiter and essentially turn the volume of the track up. That's not exactly what the limiter is doing, but that's what I like to say it's doing, because it's really easy to understand if we talk like that. So let's find our limiter under Dynamics, Limiter, click, there it is on the end. Now it's giving us a ceiling of -0.3, which is about right. I tend to use -0.2 in my own limiters, but you know, that's fine here, we can keep that there. And then what we're going to do is turn that gain knob up. Now, unfortunately with the Ableton limiter, it doesn't show you what volume you're hitting in terms of lifts. I tend to work between -8 and -7, and we're just going to go by ear. As long as it sounds loud and it works well against your reference tracks, it's probably somewhat in this right frequency. Now you can find plugins online for free that will show you the volume. So if you want to go and grab one of those, feel free to. But like I said, this is stock Ableton only. Good rule of thumb: if you're going above 5 decibels, like limiter gain, you're probably gone wrong in the master before that or in the mix, because you don't want to be giving that much gain, because it's gonna, yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. Anything over 5, you probably messed up before the limiter. So let's just play it and start turning the gain up. See, we're barely hitting the limiter. We're barely doing any gain reduction there. See, that's too much, way too much. I like a 3.6, sounds about right if we turn it on and off. I want to drop the grit down a bit, because, yeah, I want to drop that down. That's better. Let's drop. Happy with that, happy with that. Then what we can do once we're happy with the master is grab a reference. In this case, I'm just going to reference against my actual master of this track, because it'll be a good reference to show us how close we got to the actual thing. So I brought that in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to external out. If you leave it on master, you're going to send this master track through this mastering chain, and it's going to distort the heck out of it, and it's going to sound awful. So make sure that's not going through the mastering chain before you start referencing. And then we're going to A and B, back and forth, back and forth. So let's play our master first, and let's solo over to the other one. Pretty close. It's not. I mean, we are not far away at all there. You can hear some subtle differences. Like I said, when I did this track, I was mixing into the master, and I used a lot of plugins, a lot of waveform stuff to really try and dial in the master on that. But we're not far away, and in terms of loudness, it's definitely close. So, you know, that just shows right there, with stock plugins, you can get a pretty good master quite quickly. So let's listen to the second drop with our mastered version, because the second drop of this song is crazy nice. And if we turn the whole chain of mastering on and off throughout the drop, you'll see how much of a difference we're making. We'll let it drop first though, of course. Here we go. Notice the difference? Night and day. Night and day. And that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to subscribe, like the video, share. I'm going to be doing lots more production stuff. And like I said, if you want more in-depth stuff, you want stuff to download, presets, all sorts, and be part of the community, check out the Patreon down below. We're going crazy over there. Live streams and all sorts are up, and more are coming. The more people we get over there, the better. And also, if you are a patron, you get a shout out at the end of every video and on the mailing list. So, you know, if you want to support, feel free to go and have a look. We're trying to make it grow and better the community, as it were. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget, Strut, my latest single, comes out on the 6th of December on all platforms. You can pre-save that, link in the description of this video. Please feel free to go and save that. Release day is always fun. 6th of December. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.